Quickly, we want to look at the WAEC 2024 biology practical specimen. The specimens that have been released by WAEC for this year's practical exam in biology. So those are the things that we want to look at right now, and we'll be picking it up from the specimen A. So here we have listed all of the specimens that will be used. So specimen A is the gill of fish. The specimen B is the whole liver of domestic fowl with gallbladder intact. Specimen C is the lungs of the domestic fowl. Specimen D is the gizzard of the domestic fowl. Specimen E is the intestine of the domestic fowl. Specimen F is ginger rhizome. Specimen G is the onion bulb. Specimen H is the leaf of the bryophyllum. Specimen J is the cassava stem. Specimen K is the cassava tuber. We have specimen L to be the thoracic vertebrae. We have specimen M to be humerus bone. Specimen N is mango seed. We have specimen P to be femur bone. Specimen Q is the lumbar vertebrae, and specimen R is the orange seed. So these are the specimens that we'll be working on, and we'll pick them one after the other. So starting with the specimen A, we said that specimen A is the gill of a fish. So it is a respiratory organ that helps these organisms, it helps the fishes or the aquatic lives to carry out respiration. So it is found in the majority of the aquatic organisms. The gill is responsible for exchange of gas, that is, it helps them to extract dissolved oxygen from the water in which they are found, and then it also helps them to eliminate carbon dioxide. Now, this gill, which is also called lamella, is responsible for the transfer of ions alongside its function of carrying out gaseous exchange. It is also responsible for transfer of ions, and then the gills of some of these animals, we have like the hermit crab. It gives them the opportunity or the ability to actually survive outside water or out of water, particularly on land, when they are not in water. Now, this is what they do when they are not in water. It is just needing their body to be moist. When they have their skin to be moist, they will still be able to carry out some level of, they are referred to as the filament. I mean, all of these parts here, they are referred to as the filament, while this part here is the gill. This part that I'm using the pointer on is called the gill arc. Let me show us another picture that will help us understand this better. Now look at it very well. Looking at this now, this is the gill arc. This part here is the gill arc, and then all of these sharp edges or spikes, they are called the gill ricas, and then we have all of these parts here to be the gill filament. So that is what specimen A is talking about. So let us move to specimen B now. Specimen B is the liver of the domestic fowl with gallbladder. The liver of the domestic fowl with gallbladder. Now, this animal, the domestic fowl, it has its scientific name to be the Gallus gallus domesticus. That is the scientific name, as written here, Gallus gallus domesticus. Now, we also have its taxonomy here written as well, starting with the kingdom. So the kingdom is Animalia. We have the phylum to be the Chordata. We have the class to be apes. We have the order to be the Californids. Then the family is the Phasianidae. And then the genus is Gallus, while the species is Gallus domesticus. So those are the levels of classification that we have for the domestic fowl. Now, we are actually talking about the liver. So what is the liver, or what is the function of the liver in this organism? The liver happens to be the largest organ in the body. It helps in the synthesis and the metabolism of fat. Now, how does it do that? The liver is very responsible for the production of what we refer to as bile. And this bile is responsible for breaking down fat. That is why we say that it is responsible for the metabolism of fat. So the liver breaks down, balances, and creates nutrients from the blood that passes through it. The liver secretes bile, like I said earlier on, it secretes bile, and this bile is stored in the gallbladder. And that is why the gallbladder is coming in this part here. Remember, the specimen is the liver of the domestic fowl with the gallbladder. So it is in the gallbladder that this bile is being stored. Now, the bile is a yellowish green or greenish yellow substance. It is found in the gallbladder. I will show us pictures shortly that will help us to understand this very well. So the liver is a bilobed organ that lies ventrally in the abdominal cavity, and it's closely associated with the proventriculus and the spleen in the birds. Looking at the gallbladder, it is a small pear-shaped organ that stores and releases bile. a digestive fluid. Yes, the bile is a digestive fluid that acts solely on the fat, and that is produced by the liver. The gallbladder is also called the cholecyst. The gallbladder is also called the cholecyst, and it houses the bile, which is greenish yellow in color, and it helps to emulsify or break down fat. So let us quickly see some pictures that will help us to understand what we are actually talking about here. Now, looking at the pictures, we have this. So this is the liver. We have this to be the liver. You can see it. This is the liver. So it is the bile-lobed organ of the body. And then this part here that I'm putting the pointer on is what we refer to as the gall bladder. You can see the substance inside it. It feels to be yellowish green or greenish yellow. We can see it. So that is the gall bladder. Let's see another picture. We can see it here as well. So this is the gallbladder. This one that the arrow is pointing at is the gallbladder, and then we have the liver around it. So that is what specimen B is talking about. And so we move to the next specimen, which is specimen C. Specimen C is the lungs of the domestic fowl. The lungs of the domestic fowl. The lungs make up the large part of the respiratory system that aids or allows breathing. Yes, it is responsible for carrying out breathing. The domestic fowl has two symmetrical lungs. It has two symmetrical lungs, and they are connected to the trachea, which is called or also called the windpipe. It is actively responsible for the exchange of gas. That is basically what the lungs is responsible for, carrying out gaseous exchange, that is oxygen, taking in oxygen and release of carbon dioxide. The lungs of the domestic fowl is different from those of other vertebrates because the apes or the fowls, they breathe by continuously moving their ribs and their breastbone, because they do not have the ability to possess what we refer to as diaphragm. They don't have diaphragm as such. It is just their ribs and their breastbone, also called the sternum, that carries out continuous contraction and relaxation, bringing about respiration in this organism. So this results to the retention in a constant air volume. If we look at the specimen there, we will have something like this. So we'll be having this. You can see this here is what we have, the lungs. You can see it here. This is the heart, while this one here is the lungs. This is the lungs. So like I said earlier on, it is bilobed. So we have it, and it extends into the bronchioles and into the trachea. You can see this is another lung here. So those are the parts of the lung that we need to look at. Let's see another picture. You can see it here. You can see this picture as well. So it helps us to understand what we are talking about. So this part here is where we have the lungs, and it extends into the trachea. You can see the other lobe of the lungs here, and it extends into the trachea. So that is about the specimen C. And so we move to the next specimen, which is specimen